Of all the videos that I make every month, I am always the most excited for this video. My monthly favorites video.
Right. I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back.
Hey, hi, hello, my name is Fats. Welcome to my corner of the internet. This is my monthly favorites. For those of you who've been around, welcome back. For those of you who are new to the channel, let me just run you through what comes with the monthly favorites. These are simply the top 5 books that of the month. If I have a month of 1 and 2 stars, most likely my favorites are going to be a bunch of 2-star books. If I have a month of nothing but 5 stars, then my favorites are going to all be 5 stars. These don't mean that they're the best books I've ever read. This doesn't mean they're all 5-star books. This doesn't even mean that I necessarily love these books. These are just my top 5 from my reading month. Now, this reading month, I can say my favorites do look a certain way because with the reading that I was doing, the amount of DNFing that I was doing, the way my reading experience felt this month, I can see that the books that I leaned on as my favorites were like a jolly good time. They weren't necessarily heavy in world building. They weren't super action packed or had me on the edge of my seat. All the books that I enjoyed the most this month were the light, fun, easy reads. And I think after reading so much Murakami and DNFing so many books and having so many books that weren't hitting me, I really, really gravitated toward my favorites being fun, light, and easy. They aren't mind-blowing reads. I'm going to be so... Well, let me not say that. No, these were great. I had a good time. I don't know. Let's talk about the books. The first favorite of my month was Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. Let me just advocate for myself. This isn't the scariest horror. This isn't the most edge of your seat horror. This isn't that. It was the kind of horror that you're just having a good time with. I don't know how to explain that feeling better. It was very much like a, oh my goodness, don't open the door. Like it was one of those types of feelings, not terrified. It was gory. There was mystery element to it. There were quite a few things that were absolutely like, if it were a movie, I would have closed my eyes. That's what was happening with this book. It wasn't perfectly fleshed out, and then the ending reveal was a bit unsatisfying. But despite all of that, I had so much fun reading this book. Let me tell you what it's about. You have Claire. Claire is days away from losing her job and having to work a desk job, being unemployed and having to work her corporate 9-to-5, which sucks because she's right now living her dream. She currently works on like a repair ship. The ship goes around fixing satellites, but her job is going to be made obsolete because they're about to get in robots that fixes all these satellites. Oh yeah, did I say? This book is set in space. I'm sure you could tell from the cover. But Claire has picked up her final job before robots take over is at the very edge of the call system, the very edge of the communication lines. They fix those communication lines. That's why, it's the edge of it. But Claire chose to be on the edge because she wants to be out in space, feeling untethered, feeling connected to this openness. That's what she loves. She loves being out in the open. She wanted the trip that would take the longest. She didn't want to take some repair job close to base because they would be in and out. She wanted to really get as much time as possible on her ship. At the very edge of the telecom lines, they hear a distress call. The reason it is so odd to hear the distress call is because past them is a dead zone. Complete dead zone. So what could be out there, right? Now, with how far they are, how long it would take to get back, hearing this distress call, if they decide to just go back and have somebody else come back out, whoever is in distress could be lost. So in the name of going to go back and lose her job yet. They go check out where the distress call is. And they come up on a resort cruise ship type of liner that had disappeared years ago, with some of the richest, most famous people on it. This resort liner was taking its tour of space as the first real resort express, very Titanic style, and it had just disappeared. There had been rewards on finding it, but they never found it for years. Claire and her team want the reward for the ship, right? So in order to prove that it's their ship, in order to lay claim to it, they have to bring something back that proves that they know that they were the first to find it. So they go to find the little black box, kind of like airplanes. They have a little black box that will say what happened to the ship, all of that. They're going to bring that back. Then they can lay claim. Now, the black box is over in the captain's quarters. But since they found the ship and since there was nothing but rich people around it, they figured to do a little bit of looting. Claire is excited because now she may not have to go back to that desk job. She may be able to get her hands on a couple of the gold faucets, some of the real wood, some of the intricacies that were put on this ship, and maybe get enough money to buy her own ship one day and not have to go to that obsolete desk job. When they enter this ship and they are walking through these rooms, something isn't quite right. And they can't explain the absolute desecration that they find within that ship. I had a good time. Oh my goodness, I had a good time. It's very cleanly wrapped up by the end. You figure out the evil, you figure out what's going on, but it's very much Titanic meets a haunting kind of story. It had me on the edge of my seat. I wasn't scared. I'm a scaredy cat. Absolute scaredy cat. I wasn't necessarily terrified, but I was like tense. Like I was like gripping the book. I was like, don't look in there. like the way that when they get that distress call and they're like, let's do some looting. I was like, we don't need to loot. Like, it is not that serious. Do not. Like, a ship has gone missing for years. And you have a distress call. And the way they were explaining it was they were like, this is a very old distress call. Let me get a distress call in the dead zone. I would never. But that's me. I'm an educated woman in America. I'm getting a distress call. I'm sorry. Like, wrong girl. Like, if I were search and rescued, nobody would get rescued. Let somebody scream and me hear it. The way that if somebody, like, have you ever been at home and you hear somebody scream outside? I close my blinds. That is not my business. I am too scared. That would have been me in this distress call. It was that kind of feeling like, don't go. It's not that serious. Like, don't open that door. And like I said, it is gruesome. It's bloody. It was a good time. There are some jump scares though. But again, they weren't the kind of jump scares that had me like, oh, I can't do this. It was fun. It was fun. I see a lot of bad reviews on it. I had a good time. I might just have bad taste though, so that's just me. The next book that I had a lot of fun with this month was Dragonfruit. Now, just look at this cover. The way this cover makes you feel is how I felt about the book. It was so colorful. It was a lot of fun. It was very bubbly. It was bouncy. It was such a fun read because you open up with Hanif, the daughter of a very beloved family. But in an act of betrayal and secrecy, Hanif and her father are exiled from home. And Hanif spends her days hunting dragons, learning about dragons, and doing everything she can to win her way back onto this island. Let me tell you the problems with this book. The mythology, the islands, the description, the dragons were so vibrant. They were written in a way that was so tangible and vibrant for me, right? But the characters weren't given that amount of care. However, I like dragons. So I didn't really have I didn't have much of a problem. Because I love the world, and because I love the dragons, and because I love the mythology, it made it extra apparent that the characters didn't have that. Another thing I want to say, this book is advertised as a romantic fantasy. The romance is such a small part of the story. I don't even like that they included it in the description. So I can see how a lot of people would come into this book and feel dissatisfied. The romance is literally a side glance and a soft smile. There was no feet kicking for me because it wasn't the focus of the story. Come here for the islands, the dragons, the pirates, it was a very, how do I want to describe this? Because it was a pretty empty story. I do want to say that. It's not one of those, again, very much vibes. It was very much a vibes kind of story. I wasn't necessarily dragged forward by the plot, and I wasn't necessarily crazy about rooting for somebody. I was here for the vibes of these sea dragons and the pirates and the magic, and she comes from the Spice Island, so she's a Hanalei of Tamarind. It's such a vibrant, fun story that's what kind of brought me through it. I listened to this one on audiobook as well, so I think that was another reason I had such a good time with it. I didn't read this one, and I will say the audiobook narrator was fantastic. So if you want a bright, easy, fun, take your shoes off and put your toes in the sand type of read, this one was it. There, of course, there's some action, there's pirates, there's betrayal, there's a lot. There, all of that is there. I don't care. I was just here for I don't know. I loved the sea dragons. I loved the lore. I loved the mythology. The mythology, though, isn't so deep. It's very much one of those word of mouth stories told to me by my dad. It's not fleshed out past that. These myths passed by word of mouth type of thing with holes. What do you remember? That's where the mythology comes from. It's not so much laid out in the book or dumped to you or fleshed out in a heavy kind of way. You get it as do you remember what my dad said? Do you remember what my mom said? Do you remember what this person said? I had fun with it. Great time. The next book that I have on my favorites, I gotta bring it up, but I'm not gonna talk about it too much because I did a video where I basically talk about it for 15 minutes. That is A Little Devil in America. Now, I will link it up in the cards. I will put it in the description box. I discussed this so heavily and read big chunks of it in my nonfictions of the month. So this is a nonfiction book, but it just goes into Black performance, music, dancing, art, just Black performance in America and what it means to exist as this little devil America, be a Black body amongst other Black bodies, or be amongst bodies that you don't connect with. Finding community. This is very much one of those nonfictions that feels almost memoir. It was very memoir. I had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this one. That is Little Devil in America. Please pick it up. It is one of those books that I really think I will recommend a lot of people. This is one of those books I do see myself recommending to anybody who wants a nonfiction 5-star read. 5-star, 5-star, 5-star. Next, I want to talk about another book that was just such an unserious good time. And that is Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison. I hear Rachel Harrison often referred to as cozy horror. And I want to say I wasn't scared. You have a cult setting. You have a main character who is involved with the cult. You have Satanism. You have all of that. You have the devil as a character in this book. But there were no parts where I was scared. I was never scared within this book. It just felt a little bit ridiculous. I think the best word is this was such an unserious time. There are parts of the story that felt unnecessary almost. The drama between our main character and her coworker friend, and the little bit of almost relationship and the little bit of drama, the friendship. It was all of these pieces came together in a story that I didn't necessarily have to invest myself in. Again, a very unserious time. You open up with Vesper Reid, who had escaped her family cult. She grew up in a cult and she had escaped. She had walked out. And it's a kind of cult where if you leave, you never come back. But Vesper gets an invitation to her ex-best friend's wedding. And her ex-best friend is marrying Vesper's ex-high school sweetheart love. Vesper's first love is who her ex-best friend is married. So she's going back. She's going back on like a let me put on the sexy dress and let everybody know who I am type of situation. Vesper heads back home and it becomes a little bit of family drama, a little bit of friend drama. There's a little bit of kissing that shouldn't have happened. You meet her dad. And that's its whole other thing. It also falls apart in the most ridiculous kind. It was such an unserious time. If you want a horror that isn't horror and you want it to just be silly goofy, this is very much silly goofy. If you want a real horror, you want a real plot, you want anything that feels like deeply thought out, don't read this book. If you want to feel like the author sketched out ideas and edited them and worked through them, this is not the book for you. For me, what I needed at the time was very much this. I had a lot of fun with it. It was such a silly goofy time. Where I literally was reading it like, what am I doing here? What is going on? Why am I reading this? But like in a fun way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh wait, I'm a liar. I have 6 books this month. I have 6. 5 in an honorable mention. Yeah, let's say that. I have 5 in an honorable mention. We'll get to that in a second. Let me talk about my 5th. The next book that I want to bring up was a 5-star read. I'm not going to tell you much about it. Please don't look up the summary. I actually think the synopsis gives away a detail that you shouldn't have going into this. I really think you should go into this one blind and just listen to the audiobook. Don't argue with me. Don't you dare. Listen to the audiobook, listen to the audiobook, listen to the audiobook. It hits. It really got under my skin. It made the hair on my arm stand up. Oh my goodness. I was walking the dog at night and I had to turn it off. I kept like walking and looking behind me. Like, my goodness, this is a great listening experience. I don't want to tell you anymore. Listen to the audiobook. Also, thank you. I had gotten the print version of this and I had brought it up in a TBR and I was redirected by a subscriber to listen to the audiobook. And honestly, that was the best decision I've ever made in my entire life. And I've said it once and I'm going to say it again. Don't argue with me. Go in blind, listen to it. Come back. Tell me how you feel. Okay. I want to talk about my honorable mention favorite. This was a subscriber recommendation, so thank you because you know my taste well. I don't know my taste though. This is The God of the Woods. This book had all the elements of a reading experience that I usually like. It was a literary mystery. Emphasis on literary. I think I would have had a different time if I knew that. I thought this was a thriller. But this wasn't so much. So, this is a story of 2 missing kids. 2 different generations of missing children. 2 different ages, 2 different timelines. And you jump timelines throughout the story. But the story itself peels away the layers of this family. It's not about the twists, turns. I honestly felt as if at times I felt that the way it was written, the mystery itself almost fell into the background often. And me thinking that I was in a thriller, I just was like, what is happening? What is going on? I need clues. I need guessing. I points because I didn't guess the ending. I didn't guess the ending, but the ending fits a literary mystery. It was well written. It really peeled apart layers of the family and the town and the drama within that family. And it really hung out with the history of the land in a way that I enjoyed. The only thing that resulted in me not enjoying my reading experience, and I was honest in my rating because I didn't necessarily enjoy my reading experience because I thought I was reading a thriller. And I wish that I had been informed that this was way more meandering. And I was dissatisfied with the meandering because I was like, where are the twists? Where's the craziness? Where's the blood? That's what I thought I was here for. Meanwhile, I was just going to enjoy that I had this sort of meandering, slow unveiling of a story. That's what it was. It was more of an unveiling. I think that's the word I want to use. Unveiling of a story rather than being pushed to need answers. There were moments where I almost felt like the times that I was most surprised were actually like drama. It was drama. The only critique that I really, really have that was annoying and weird to me was one of the red herrings. If you've read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't read it, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything. But there was a red herring in there that didn't make sense because how did you get the job? Is nobody doing background checks? Like, that doesn't make sense. You wouldn't have this job. There is no way you would have been hired. So that red herring was just kind of like, I just thought that was weird. That didn't make any sense to me. I think that one could have been thought out a little bit better. Hey, baby, I think you're in front of the camera. Hey. Please get out of the way. Please get out of the way. Go away. Thank you so much. That was the only thing that really got under my skin. You know what I'm talking about. If you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. Now, I recommend it, but go into it knowing the kind of story that you're going into. Even the title, God of the Woods, I don't know what about it. The title, the cover doesn't match this story at all. There was so much that I went into this with a completely different understanding of what type of experience I was going to get. It is not that. It is well written, though. I did enjoy the writing style that this author had. I did like how she went about writing this story. I don't know. I needed some better marketing for myself to feel good about the pacing. Those are my favorites of the month. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for coming along for the journey that was this absolutely ridiculous month. I'm always glad that I do these favorites videos because it helps me put into perspective my reading, because in my mind, all I think about are all of my DNFs, my long reads, taking so much time to do certain things, and my time being taken up by books I didn't necessarily enjoy. But meanwhile, I have a new all-time favorite nonfiction that I'm going to recommend to anybody who will listen to me, and a 5-star read. So I had 2 5 stars this month, which is kind of a big deal for the first month of the year. But I hope your January went well, and I hope your February is even better. If I could grab you by your shirt and put you up against the wall, it would be to tell you to go listen to I'm Thinking of Anything by Iain Reid. If you don't like spooky, scary, speculative, don't. Protect yourself. I I don't know how to explain the like fear that I felt because I don't want to tell you anything, but it is a spooky speculative time. Very Iain Reid, but not gore. I don't want to tell you anything. I don't want to tell you anything. Please go listen to it. Please talk to me about it. And that's really all I have today. I will talk to you next time.